Hi everyone, welcome back. It's back to the Moratua podcast. We are back again, and today we have an interesting conversation coming up, more about where we are in this time frame, right? So we are in a situation where we came out of COVID. In COVID, people were working from home. Right now, people have left that season, and they're in a time where you can work hybridly, you can work remotely. But with that, with trying to balance the combination of being hybrid, of being in person and being remote at the same time, we found and research found that there's a lot of challenges that come with that. So, given our collective experience here at Moratua and given your experience as consultant for other organizations, what we're going to talk about is how do we address the challenges, the risks, and sometimes the benefits of being a remote team. What are the practical steps to doing that? And that's what the conversation will be about today. As always, we have our wonderful, wonderful panelists here. Shout out to everyone who's listening. Thank you for joining our conversation right now. We're so excited to have you. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and we will answer them as it comes up if we have enough time at the end of today. For now, we have Gorata, who is the CEO, Executive Director of Moratua Consultancy. We have Victor Adang, who is the COO of Moratua Consultancy. In addition to the operation director of Naughty Company, we have with us also Mariam Badmus, who is the business development associate for Moratua Consultancy, and myself, Dumebi, who is the Martech director for Moratua. And so today we're going to be talking about, again, remote teams, how to navigate the challenges, the risks, and the benefits of working, of leading such teams as a leader. So my first question for us to just get right out of the bat, right? My first question talks about leading remote teams, as we mentioned. What would you say right off the bat are the biggest challenges when managing a global remote team? And we can start with you, Gorata.
All right, thanks, Dumebi. Confirm you can hear me?
I can hear you. I'm good.
All right, perfect. I think a few of the challenges that we've seen, firstly, by being a global team ourselves, I mean, as Moratua, consultants were based in different parts on and off of the African continent, but also working with different companies, organizations within and outside of the continent. I mean, one big one is time zone difference, obviously. So, when you're in America, I think your time zone specifically, maybe is what, 5, 6 hours behind us.
Yeah.
And, we're dealing with clients who are 5, 6 hours ahead of you. It becomes so hard to find a time to meet that works for both parties, because the last thing you want to do is have someone on a call at 2 a.m. Right. So just setting that schedule has become a bit of a challenge. And that's why, specifically when we recruit, one of the options we do give our clients is asking them, what do you prefer? Do you prefer somebody who's really close to your time zone? Or do you think you can accommodate somebody who's maybe a bit further ahead of time or behind time than you? And more times than most, they go for somebody who is close to that time zone. So we make sure every time we get that part of the placement right. So that's one challenge. Another one would be the cultural differences. One thing you come to realize is that even within the continent itself, the way our cultures are different, and that usually affects how we communicate, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll give an example that I've seen work in real time. Southern Africans, I'm going to say South Africans, Botswana specifically, we are more passive in speech, I'll say, right? But when you're dealing with people like West Africans, Nigerians, they're more direct, and sometimes it sounds a bit harsh. So I've had incidences where I've been on calls with South Africans and Nigerians, and after the call, the South Africans are like, why were they speaking that's so rude? And I had to explain, no, they're not being rude. It's just the way they speak. They're direct and upfront like that, and it sounds rude to you because of the cultural differences. So that tends to affect communication as well. Another challenge would be building engagement on a global team. It's easy to keep people engaged when people are seeing each other consistently in a workspace, right? We are physically in the same workspace. We can organize these small TGIFs and these small parties, these small bonding games. The thing we haven't gotten completely right is how to keep people bonded and engaged online without overwhelming people with you need to be online for 3 more hours than you plan to be, because it can be overwhelming and actually very taxing for someone's mental state to be looking at a computer screen for too
A
long.
minute, right?
So building that relationship, that engagement, that trust becomes a little difficult when you're working on a screen and you barely see each other in the same office. That's just a few. I'm sure Victor will be able to name more just based off of his work in and outside of Moratua as well.
Victor, do you have anything? Do you have some challenges you'd like to bring to the forefront about working or leading remote teams?
Um, I if I didn't know Gorata, I would have said she stole points from my playbook. But because the points she gave are very, very, very valid and very close to what I would have said. The last point particularly was the first thing I was going to say, motivation. I'm currently dealing with that because, so for example, in the US, probably you're just getting to midday. In Nigeria, people are rounding off for the day. So the level of motivation and energy is different, right? So now I'm expected to have 100% to match your 100%, but I'm depleted already, and I can't show that on my screen because you look like I'm moved or I'm not interested. That's one of the biggest challenges. Um, and there's a flip side to it. Flip side is not being able to correctly assess it. So, for example, if I kept my face like this, the perception you're probably getting is this guy is not into this, so he's tired, right? So, if you were pitching me an idea and I gave you that reaction, you wouldn't like it. So, you then can't tell if I'm forcing my smile or I'm genuinely smiling, which messes with your mental health and emotions at certain times, depending on who you're speaking to. So, for example, if you're speaking to a high prospect client and they have a face like that, that is very down, you can't tell if you're actually convincing them to buy your service or your product because you can't read their emotions correctly, right? Because they're behind the screen and there's everything else happening around them that is not shown on that screen in that moment that you can't read. So it then affects it could affect your perception, which then affects your performance, right? Depending on the context. Um, or if you're a manager and if I have my team that report to me and I'm giving that expression that looks like I'm downcast and they're telling me how their week has been going and all the great stuff they've done, they might feel like they've not been impressive enough. So I have to do extra work now as the manager. So for them, it's maybe we're not good enough. For me, it's like you guys are great. I'm just tired. How do I communicate that to you? Which brings the second
Mm-hmm.
point, communication, right? And Horata touched on this, but just twisting it a little bit would be, I think one of the challenges with working with the communication. So, sometimes when a person texts you, you don't know if it could be misinterpreted very easily and very quickly, right? Just the same thing with the emotion. So we're not just talking of, when you're doing virtual calls and stuff, like even emails, right? So sometimes you're double reading emails 20 times as opposed to a conversation you could have easily had and you know the outcome already. But when it becomes an email, you have to cross-check it like 5, 10 times. So that just increases your stress level, right? So communication that should relatively have been simpler and much easier are more difficult because, for example, there might be sensitive talk, not even sensitive topics. There might be topics around what's a fair compensation that is okay with, and you're trying to negotiate that with the client via text. So you're not sure how to then present your fee that is probably not so high, and then the next thing they say is okay, and okay immediately has like 10 different variations, right? So that communication is a major, major, major challenge. I think I will stop there and let anybody else add any more. But those two things, very human centric and stress related reactions. The challenges I would say emanate from remote working and remote supervision.
Um, Mar Actually, for Mariam, I have a question for you. So, one of the things of how, on that point of communication, right? Because one of the stats we see with leaders in like managing both in-person and remote teams, specifically remote teams, about 82% of them are very happy to have a remote team. They are open to having a remote team. but only 27% of them find that they have a strong working remote culture. And I think we've touched at that. So G, you've talked about, time zones and culture. And Victor, you really hyper focus on that point of communication that was mentioned. So something else that comes to mind is also the concept of trust. I think if
Yeah.
there is trust, regardless of whether it's a different culture, it's a different time zone, um, different skill sets, whatever it is, trust, some idea of trust is important. So Mariam, I'm going to ask you, you've been in the work as a virtual assistant. Now you're working as a business development associate, working with a team from different cultures, different time zones. What do you think trust means when working remote?
Okay, thank you for that. So
Yeah.
when trust when working remotely is when you feel like you are completely confident in the person that if the person can get the work done. So
Mm,
for me, I feel like trust is very, very important because the fact that you can give me something to work on and I feel like, okay, regardless of the time difference and whatever it is that is going on in the person's life, I can say, okay, I'm getting this thing done, regardless of if the person is asking me for accountability or not. I can
mm,
get this done and text off the person and say, okay, I'm done. I've done this thing according to how you want me to do it. And that is trust for me. The fact that you
gotcha.
can believe in the person that, okay, this person can get this thing done. And it is really, really important because if I'm not trusted, I don't think my boss will actually tell me that, okay, get this thing done in this amount of time. And they'll feel like, okay, I can leave it to this person to get this thing done. So I
Right.
feel like trust is very, very important. Like without trust, I don't think we really have anything to communicate. We can't, without trust, I can Gorata can't tell me that, okay, Miriam, I need you to do something, and she'll be like, because at the end of the day, if she does not trust me, she'll be like, I don't think Miriam will get this thing done. Probably I should do it by
Mm,
myself. And
mm,
if she's feeling like that, at the end of the day, she won't be able to add me more work. And it will be at my side like I'm just there. I'm not really doing anything at the end of the day. So if she can trust me, if you can trust me, if Victor can trust me, at the end of the day, everything gets done. And I feel like, okay, that is when I feel like, okay, I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm working perfectly. I'm somebody that is needed
mm.
by the team. So that's what trust feels like to me.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for that. And now I'm gonna throw it to Victor, because so we've spoken about the challenges, and the reason I specifically moved into trust is because again, those 27% of people find that they don't have a strong remote culture, right? And that is built on the idea of there isn't enough trust to navigate the complexities of working back and forth and with a team and having the trust that is sustained by communication strategies, etc. But my question to you is more so, what do you think are key elements that are needed to build trust within a team that is working remotely and just so happens to be global?
I think there is macro and micro levels of that. First,
Mm,
on macro levels, um, they have to build a relation. It will take some
mm,
time. Trust is an asset that takes time to grow.
mm,
It's never, if you find anybody that trusts anybody very quickly, I don't know how to explain that, but trust just takes time, right? Most relationships take time for trust to don't kick in. So I think the first thing would be for them to build a relationship. So for example, if you join the remote team today, for example, the first thing you will have is, hey everybody, my name is Victor, pleasure to meet you guys. And fake smiles, fake this, trying to remember everybody's name, trying to sound very careful, not offend this person. But over time, some jokes begin to crack in, right? If you came late for a meeting, you're not so nervous, like everybody's going to kill you. It's more like team is more accommodating. Not saying you're irresponsible, just saying now you're more relaxed, right? So trust has been built. So I think the first one, relationship. Another factor will be communication. The more you talk to somebody, the more you get to know them, which builds that relationship, and at the same time, you get to understand their perspective. So you're not speaking with your team very often. There's a tendency not to be able to trust them. So you can't tell this
mm,
person's capacity. I can't tell their stress level. I can't tell their bandwidth because I don't speak with them, right? So communication. Um, Micro level competence. My goodness, competent. If your team member is not competent, I don't care how much you speak with them. I don't care how much you know them. You cannot trust them because they would not deliver. It's as simple as that. It's not. It might not be because they don't want to deliver. It's just because they don't have it in them to deliver. So if you told them, "Hey, do a presentation," and they have no PowerPoint skills, no matter how much you trust them, from now till eternity, PowerPoint is not coming out. Um, but if they were competent to a level where you could trust them to go learn and self-develop, perhaps they will give you some, which is why I said micro level, because it's no longer so much of the organization, it's now the individual we're looking at, right? So it's that detail of who the person is that really forms that factor. So competence, and then we call it skill as well, competence and skill. Thinking to see if there's any other thing I would say builds trust. I think any other thing can be put on these three foundations. Relationship, communication, and competence. If those three things are intact over time, for sure, there should be trust. Except there is a character flaw somewhere where maybe a person in the team has shown some character traits that are not very encouraging. So that's again a micro thing. But aside that, I can't foresee any situation where trust will not be against.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. I like how you put the three different things you said. So relationship, building relationship over time, communication, frequent communication, and base level competence for the role. So on that, I think one thing that, again, communication keeps coming up. So I'm going to pivot over to Farhad, because I think just in our working relationship and also the work you've done consulting for other organizations as well, communication is something I would venture to say that you excel at. And so what are, for the leaders listening in, students who might be listening and potential remote employees who will be listening, if you can give us 3 or 4 key communication strategies that would help build the trust that Mariam defined and Victor helped, lay out for us.
Okay. I mean, thank you on that compliment about my communication skills. I think we're constantly working on it, and it's definitely a team effort. I think the team is just full of really great communicators. And so thing number one, I would say, like, set clear communication norms, right? Decide early on what is the best way to get a hold of who, make it clear that because you're 5 hours behind, I think we knew very early on that you're going to take a long time to respond to things. And so we give you that grace. Sometimes we just nudge you when we know you've been awake for about 4 hours, but you haven't responded. She must have forgotten. And we nudge you. Like, we've fallen into those patterns because we were very clear and very honest from the beginning, right? We're also very open and honest about our different commitments outside of Moratua. We don't lie to each other about anything. Hey, if we're busy, we're busy. And we know if Victor's really busy, he's going to take 2-3 business days to respond to something. Give him grace. If Gorata's in, exam season or whatever it was back when I was still in school when we were doing Moratua, then we know just leave her alone, figure stuff out on your own, and we afford each other that grace. So that's, I would say, thing number one. Those communication norms are so important, and they're really helpful, especially when you're working with people from different cultures, right? As you build a relationship with people, those norms start to evolve, and you start to add in things like how you would like to be, spoken to, how you would like to be addressed, because I think that's really important. You don't want anyone to feel like they're being disrespected or something like that. I'll give an example. I worked with somebody who didn't capitalize names. So, like, the first letter in your name, they wouldn't capitalize it. And I don't know why they did that, but I guess because of a cultural thing, it wasn't a big deal. But for me, culturally, it's a big deal. Because in my culture, part of respect is spelling my name a certain way. What do you mean, small g? That's offensive. So being able to communicate that, hey, I know you're probably not aware, but just a reminder, capitalize my first name, my first letter. Thank you. And it was sorted. It wasn't a big deal. Another thing, asynchronous working tools are your friend, and it's so important to document everything, right? Give everyone in the team shared access to really important documents. We specifically have a shared drive where we keep a various assortment of things. So from anyone's own email, they can access that shared drive. We do our best to come back and report back on what happens with different engagements so that everyone is on the same team, right? We use Google, we're on the Google Workspace, and it's been really helpful. You share a drive, we get to see it and work on it and edit in our own time and comment in our own time. No need to hop on a call because then we have to figure out when is Dumebi awake, when is she asleep, when is someone else at work doing 1, 2, 3. So that really, really helps. And also just foster inclusivity. Have everyone's voice heard. I think when you make it known that everyone's feedback matters and everyone's voice matters, the communication lines open up so much easier when you listen to what people are saying. And for some of us, we think, oh, this is a small thing. I probably don't need anyone else's opinion. But I've seen small things actually encourage people to open up and speak more about big things because you let them in on the small things and now they've gathered that confidence to speak and to be honest and open with you. So that's just, I mean, that's a few of the things I would say. Victor, I don't know if you have any more. Mariam, I don't know if you have any more.
I think that with the crown queen of education, global teams have spoken. What else could I possibly? I think you've done excellent. Well, considering that. Yes. I wouldn't add anything else. You guys hear
Mariam, do
me?
you have anything to add? Yeah, we can hear you. I think I was waiting for Mariam. Mariam, do you have anything to add?
No, well, something funny just came to my mind, like all of a sudden. I remembered when Gorata was talking, I remember trustful. And I know how important it is for you to like trust those you are going to fall into their hands. Because that's very, very important. While she was talking, that trustful just came to my mind.
That's such
How
a
do you
great,
do a
that's
virtual trustful? Actually, now I'm thinking about it. It's a really good exercise in person, but what's the virtual equivalent of a trustful? Have we had one as a team? Knowingly, unknowingly?
I don't even know.
We should look into that. That's our next team, virtual team bonding activity.
Hmm. I have another question, just on that same trustful, because it was going to pivot to my last question. And I think I'll start with
Yes.
Mariam. So,
Yeah.
trustful. Now, the idea of a trustful indicates that there's somebody standing behind you to catch you. So, rather than taking this from the leader's perspective, let us think for people you would, as a leader or as an employee, from an employee perspective, what are, and for everyone, if you can go have like one different idea, what is one thing an organization can do to get your trust?
Mm.
So I'm going to let us think for a minute and then
Yeah.
we
Okay.
can pull out one by one. What do you think is one thing an organization can do to get the trust of their employees?
Yeah.
Mm.
I would say number one, honestly keep to your word.
Hmm.
Because your word is what they're going to run. Honestly keep to your word. Do that's what's keep getting better. You have those two, you always remain valuable. You're exceptionally good at what you do, and you're constantly improving upon those skills. Keep to your word. And when you make
Victor,
mistakes,
you're getting a bit muffled just a little bit.
oh, I said keep to your word. You're able to
Yes,
keep
nice.
to your word, and you're able to keep to your word, and you're able to be honest about when you make a mistake, acknowledge it,
Mm,
right, and take responsibility Correct. I know that's a lot of points, but it's a combination of these things that I think make you a trustworthy person to look at. Because people want to tell you something and go to bed at 9 a.m. their time or 9 p.m. their time, wake up at 10 a.m. and you already at 5, knowing that that thing has been done within the time when they were sleeping and you were awake. So you have to be honest with your work. You have to take responsibility. You have to be good at what you do and keep improving so that you're valuable. Otherwise, you might just become a liability.
Yeah, that's great. So what I'm hearing is from the point of the employer, the employee, it would be, I guess, because I think, but I'm trying to take it from the point of what would a leader do to gain the trust of their employees. So I'm understanding it would be first to be somebody of integrity. If they can be sure that their leader has integrity. I particularly love when you mentioned the idea of being honest and taking responsibility for any errors on their end. If they see that in a leader, that's one thing that can get the trust from the employee. Okay. Nice, nice, nice. That's number one. We have number two. Anybody have another thought?
Show genuine care for employees' well-being.
Mm,
And genuine as in you really know your employees and can notice when they need some time out, but also you really care that they're taking some time out, even if you're not noticing. I think
mm,
as an employee, in my employee
mm,
experience, some of the employers that have earned not just my trust, but my undying loyalty, as
mm,
in I would leave this company with you kind of loyalty, are the kind who have gotten to know me so well. And I
mm.
think this is unique. This is not every that can do this, and it's such an amazing trait. But they know me so well that when I get into a meeting and just by the way I say hello, they go, something's wrong. Gorata, what's wrong? Do we need to have a chat after this? What's going on? And they actually genuinely listen and care.
Mm.
And more than I'd like to admit, once or twice I have been forced to go on leave even when
Mm.
I didn't want to, just because my boss recognized that, you need some time out. You work really hard and we're happy with the work you're doing, but you need some time out.
Yeah.
And we're not even going to talk to you. We're not going to message you. Actually, feel free to block all of us while you're on leave. That genuine care
Right.
shows me that I am more than just a number on a sheet. I'm more than just a way to, get this specific outcome, but you care about me as a person. And I think that's the kind of leadership I've also grown and tried to embody. And I'm still trying to embody because I felt it was so impactful.
That's wonderful. I completely agree. The idea of showing genuine care for the people that you lead. So that's a highlight point. All right, so we've done integrity, be a leader that does what they say they're gonna do. Um, be a leader that cares about the people you are leading and show genuine care. Because I think it creates a reciprocal response from the employee, which is she cares, I'm going to care.
Yeah.
So those are really two really great points. Mariam, you get to give us the third and final point. What stands out to you?
So,
Yeah, it's just like what stands out to you as an element that's key to getting that a leader would do or practices that would get your trust.
So the word that comes to mind for me is care for my growth and improvement. Because I
Mm,
think people have been in a situation whereby they are at a particular place of work and the boss or their leaders don't care about, okay, if this person is really learning or getting to improve their self in their work. They are just bombarding them with whatever it is that they are doing. So I feel like if I want to be in a position whereby my leader cares about my growth and my improvement and feel like, okay, this person is really getting there and is like helping me in every process of the way.
that
That's
is
very
so
important.
key. I love that. I completely love that because so first of all, be a leader that does what they're gonna say. Be a leader that genuinely cares about and I think what I'm hearing from you, Parata, is the um more so the personal emotional well-being of your followers, right? How they are actually responding within their environment, how they're doing, how they're managing their work, present work. From you, Miriam, what I'm understanding is having a leader who cares about your future and who cares about how the work you're doing now aligns with your future. So those are three
Yeah.
great elements that from our conversation, I can see and I completely agree that will gain the trust of your employees. So if you're listening and you're trying to understand how can you better build either communication strategies or just overall a good trust filled working environment, I think these are three good, great takeaway points. Be a leader who has integrity, who is honest, who can own up to their mistakes, who can show up when they say they're going to show up. Be a leader that does care about the state of well-being of your employees, because at the end of the day, they are not gears in a clock that are just like grinding out for you, right? These are real human people, and being able to understand who they are, understand what they need, goes a long way in creating that environment. And finally, be a leader that creates a space for upward mobility, a leader that creates a space for the future, the advancement of the people who are working for you. So that's wonderful. I think we've had such a wonderful conversation. Again, thank you for everyone who's listening. Thank you so much for the time from our panelists. Thank you so much. Let's just give a high five. I think I can give a high five. Like a nice clap. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I just seem so
Wait,
excited. Let's go. Let's
can we
go.
high five each other?
We can
Okay.
high five each other.
Yay! My favorite thing about these episodes is people would not. I think we try to be a lot more serious than we are in our own calls, and it's my favorite thing.
We are this is like
Are
if
we
you
still
could rate
recording?
like we're still recording, sorry. But yeah, anyways, thank you so much for joining us. You were about to see the real Moratua come out. So thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure. We'll come back again next week with another episode on how you can make yourself and your organization thrive. All right. Have a good day and bye everyone.
Bye.